Okay, picking up in our prophecy study, we'll start with I guess you could say we're still into the seventh trumpet, things that happen after the seventh trumpet. And this we'll start in part one of the rise of the beast, the Antichrist. And we'll go into Revelation chapter 13. And this is going to be several parts. In fact, part one tonight. We'll get started on part one. I don't think we're going to get all the way through part one tonight. But some interesting things we'll look at, and we'll compare other scriptures and where these things are found elsewhere, you know, in the prophetic scriptures and so forth. And kind of talk about some of these things and what they might be and how to, understand. And we'll also try to dispel some of the nonsense that's out there, you know, prophetic interpretation, things like that. So here's the beast rises. This is a pretty good kind of a drawing here, and certain figures we'll see of the beast that comes out of the sea and has 7 heads and 10 horns and different things, body of a leopard and feet like a bear, and then the dragon, the great red dragon with 7 heads. We've seen that, and then kind of a depiction of the second beast rising out of the earth, and he has 2 horns like a lamb, and he speaks as a dragon, and he can call down fire from heaven, and makes the image of the beast, and everybody worships it, and they've got the mark in their forehead or their hand and so forth. So these kind of a pretty good drawing there of what we'll be looking at, some of those things. John says, I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, here's something I'm thinking, and I don't know that it makes a tremendous amount of difference one way or another here, but from what I understand of looking through this, if you remember, in this kind of series of things John's relating that he saw, this kind of started off when he saw the mighty angel come down from heaven with clothed with the sun and a rainbow around its head, and it set 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land, had the little, cried with a loud voice, and had the little book in its hand, and gave it to John, and he ate it, and so on like that. Well, I'm thinking this is a continuous series of visions John's having to explain some of the things and describe some of the things that are going to go on during that last 3.5 year period of the Great Tribulation. So, as John's looking and he sees this beast rise up out of the sea, I don't know that what maybe that mighty angel with 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land is not still standing there and part of this whole milieu of things that John's seeing here. Maybe not, but it seems to be kind of part of the continuing series of visions he has. They rise up out of the sea. Now, in other places, we've seen, and we will see again, the explanation of the sea often represents multitudes of the nations of the earth, and so on, like the world system, the nations of the world, people of the world. The 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 heads represent 7 kings, like kingdoms, leaders, and the 10 horns. Horns generally indicate military type powers, could be generals, things like that, but generally indicate military powers that exist to enforce the will of the king or kings that they particularly serve. So, upon his horns 10 crowns, so we know we've got the 10 kings. Upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Blasphemy here, and I should have, did I? Let's see. Nope. I didn't put the blasphemy definition in here. Blasphemy being not just verbal attacks on God, but blasphemy also being taking things that only belong to God and attributing them to some other thing, a human force, or to taking things that only God can do and giving the credit to the devil or some other entity, spiritual entity or whatever. That's basically blasphemy. And then at this point, we know this Antichrist beast claims to be God. During this rising of this beast, when he sets himself up in the temple in Jerusalem, claiming to be God and demanding to be worshipped. So this beast he sees rise up out of there. And we know that Daniel saw we'll look at it in a minute, the visions of the beast. Definition of beast, therion, is a dangerous animal, venomous, or a wild beast. It could be a poisonous snake or some, predatory animal. I'm going to say that these things, in fact, we know they are, because Daniel mentioned these things, are predatory animals. Bear, lion, leopard, those kind of things. They devour and kill, other animals, and sometimes they're kind of, in a sense, and during that, on that list of animals that are deadly animals that are known man killers throughout the earth. I think there's 7 specific. Read a book by Peter Hathaway Capstick years ago. Really good book about the 7 deadliest animals on earth. And I was surprised to find that one of them was water buffalo, like they have over in Africa. And another one was the hippopotamus. He said it's amazing how many people are killed by hippos every year. He said they're incredibly fast and run short distances, and vicious. They're vicious, man. So, anyway, so here we have another kind of a drawing of the beast, and 7 heads and 10 horns and feet of a bear, and it's got the mouth of a lion, but it's supposed to have iron teeth, but these don't have iron teeth. Anyway, in a comparison between the dragon and the beast in Revelation 13, 7 heads and 10 horns on the dragon, and 7 heads and 10 horns on the beast. And so this tells us that when you find the same characteristics, you're talking about the same thing. So the beast that rises up out of the sea, it is a manifestation of the kingdom and power of Satan, the dragon. He goes on to say, the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard. His feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Uh-oh, did she get one of the cough drops?
It's on the floor.
Yeah.
Look over down there. Is there any on the floor?
No, I guess I knocked one of them off up here. I'm going to put them in my pocket. You dogs. No, they're down here fighting over the toy now. Just like little kids, you can't take your eyes off of them for a second. So, in Daniel's vision, he saw, and these beasts were explained to him about what they were. The leopard represented Greece because it was swift, and we know from history, Alexander the Great's campaign was very swift and covered a tremendous amount of land area in a relatively short time. Very effective, fast-moving army. The Medes and Persians were compared to a bear because they weren't all that fast, but they were very powerful and strong, and just nothing stood in their way when they moved to conquer the nations that they conquered. And then the lion was Babylon. Because it was, the greatest of all the ancient kingdoms and so forth. So we find this beast and some of its characteristics, and it receives its power and seat and great authority from the dragon. But here again, one of the points we want to make here is we'll see some of the limits under which Satan is allowed to operate. And even with the things that he's able to do, he is still only able to operate within certain boundaries. He doesn't have limitless power or knowledge or wisdom. He doesn't have limitless time, and so on. You got you in my Bible. Here's a pretty good picture of the beast with the kind of the nondescript, beast there rising up out of it. So let's take a look at Daniel's vision of the beast. And John's vision of it incorporates components of each of the former empires: the leopard, the bear, the lion, and the dragon. We can compare Daniel 7 and Revelation 13. Daniel 7, he saw the little horn, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. The beast in the sea, speaking great things and blasphemies. The same horn made war with the saints. John says it's given to him to make war with the saints in Revelation 13. Daniel says he'll wear out the saints of the Most High. And the beast in the sea is able to make war with the saints and to overcome them. He's more stout than his fellows from Daniel 7:20. His power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So he'll have worldwide power. And remember this as we go through these things about the beast. We're looking at the establishment of a world government, a world religion, and a world economy. And those are the three areas of influence and power that all people who seek to rule over others know that they have to control. They have to control the government, they have to control the economy, and they have to control the religion.
Look at North
And
Korea.
so, North Korea, the communist regimes are a good example of that. And so, when you see governments that do that, they have control over all three. It's a kind of a tyrannical government, and their main objective is to have power over the people. This is one of the reasons why, when the founding fathers of the United States set up our system of government, this is one of the reasons why they made provision in there for protection against a state-sponsored religion. It wasn't because, they didn't want religion in the government or anything like that. They believed in the Bible and godly principles and biblical principles and so forth, but they didn't want the establishment of any official religious system to have any, ruling power in the country and so on. And some other things about the economics and the reason why they set the government up like it was. So anyway, they should be given unto his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time, 3.5 years. Power is given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. So we find that 3.5 year period of time. Over in Daniel chapter 7, he says, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So, same things we find over there in Revelation. The beast with 10 horns, 7 heads and all that. Now, let's see. Let me go ahead and read these verses in Daniel. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So here we find these powers, and then this little power, almost seeming to come from nowhere, rises up and just rips out 3 of those powers, generals, military forces, whatever they are, rips them out, takes their place, and it rises up in prominence over all the remaining ones, and it is the Antichrist. So we're seeing a picture of how this is going to come about, kind of when that system rises up. It will be through force and violence and I can't think of the word. I'm hunting for a word. I can't find it, so we'll just move on. Maybe I'll remember it. We'll come back to it later. I considered the horn, came up a little horn before him. There were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, In this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. We've seen that. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and tread it down, and break it in pieces. So here we find that this Antichrist kingdom will have components of all of those ancient kingdoms and world systems that have been in place. But it's going to be different from all of them. It's going to devour the whole earth and tread it down and break it in pieces. So this Antichrist system in government is going to have influence over the whole world. And I know we've seen things, and we maintain the viewpoint that some of these prophetic things are going to be centrally focused in and around the land of Israel, but yet some of these things, like this beast kingdom, will have influence over the whole world, the whole earth. And it will, devour it. And devour, I think we looked at that word last time. That means to, voraciously, greedily eat something. So it's going to demand all of the resources, all of the remaining foodstuffs that are going to be in short supply by this time, all the energy resources, every resource is going to go to support the kingdom of the beast. And if that causes, starvation and deprivation for countless thousands of people around the earth, well, that's just too bad, because the priority is going to be to feed the machine and feed the beast. That's going to be the thing. So they're going to devour the whole earth and all of its resources that they need, tread it down and break it in pieces. So all former government systems, national identities, all that are going to be trashed. All, military forces, survivalist groups, militias, all that. None of that's going to stand. They're going to try to do their best to wipe all of it out. They will have zero tolerance for anybody in any group that stands against the kingdom of the beast. So that's going to happen. Now, many prophecy interpretations claim that the fourth kingdom is the Roman Empire. If you remember from back in Daniel's prophecies, the angel Gabriel comes to him, I think it's in chapter 8, and explains to him what the vision means that he saw when Daniel saw the vision of the four beasts. And Gabriel explained to him and said, the first beast, which was the lion, that was, actually, Daniel knew the lion was Babylon, but Gabriel didn't mention Babylon because Babylon had already fallen by then, and they were under the Medes and Persians. He said the bear represents the Medes and the Persians, and said the leopard represents Greece, which hadn't come yet. And I think in the vision Nebuchadnezzar had of his Colossus, with the head of gold and arms and chest of silver and the belly and thighs of brass and the feet of iron, and the legs of iron and the feet of iron and clay. You got it was explained to Daniel that the head was Babylon, then Media, Persia, Greece, and then the fourth kingdom. Now it struck me one time. Okay. That fourth kingdom, who have we always heard that fourth kingdom is? The Roman Empire, right? Well, a thought struck me several years ago when I was looking through this, and I thought, what if that fourth kingdom is not Rome? If that fourth kingdom was the Roman Empire, why didn't Daniel say that it was the Roman Empire? Why didn't, when Gabriel explained who these are, in named names, this beast represents this kingdom, this beast represents this kingdom, and this beast represents that kingdom, and the fourth beast is a different kingdom that is unlike all other kingdoms. So, my point is that we should not assume that fourth kingdom is the Roman Empire, because, and there are several reasons that validate my ranting viewpoint here. And one of them is that really, and history will kind of validate the claim that Rome, in a lot of senses, was kind of an extension of Greece. And there are scriptures that indicate that from God's viewpoint, the Roman Empire was looked at as just an extension of Greece. That the Roman Empire really didn't so much stand on its own. So my contention is that the fourth beast is not the Roman Empire. The fourth beast is, just like it says, it's diverse from all kingdoms. The Roman Empire was not diverse from, it wasn't different from all kingdoms. It was kind of a conglomeration of stuff that had come before it. Because the Roman religion of the Roman Empire, it was the same as the Greek religion. They even worshiped the same gods. They just gave them Latin names. But it was all basically the same. The culture was a lot alike, and the language was a little different. But a lot of Romans, spoke Greek and used Greek, and a lot of that. So Rome really wasn't all that diverse from all the other kingdoms. They incorporated a lot of stuff from the kingdoms that they conquered, and so on. So my contention is that this Antichrist beast kingdom is going to be one that's different from all of the other kingdoms that came before it, while it will incorporate elements of those former kingdoms. But here's the thing. If we look back through all of those old pagan kingdoms, we find common elements that go all the way back to the original false religion started at Babel. When they got together and they said, hey, let's build us a city, and let's build us a tower, and let's establish ourselves here while we're all one people and we're all one language, lest we be scattered over the face of the earth. And wait a minute now, what exactly was it that God had told them to do specifically? Scatter out over the earth and populate the earth. And so they were going to determine to do just exactly opposite of what God had told them to do. And it was at Babel, under Nimrod, that original pagan idolatrous system of worship originated, with the mother goddess and the bull worship and the serpent and all those other things, sun, moon, and stars and all that. So we find those common things that go all the way back there, and this Antichrist kingdom will incorporate all of those pagan religious elements that go all the way back to Nimrod and the original false religion that was established in the earth. And common threads go all the way back there. So it's going to be like that, but it's not going to be like these other kingdoms as far as how it operates and so forth. Now, there are, a lot of the reasons why people think it's Rome is because the Roman Empire came right after the Greek Empire. Also, Rome was sometimes called the Iron Empire. It had commanded the entire Mediterranean world in the 1st century AD. Many today claim that there is a revived Roman Empire consisting of, the European Union and the Roman Catholic Church, which will, factor into prophetic fulfillments and so forth. A lot of problems with this interpretation, though. For example, we talked about the Roman Empire really wasn't diverse from all other kingdoms. And Daniel didn't identify it as the fourth beast. And also, back in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, when the European Union, they were forming the European Union. And it was around about the time, shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the fall of the former Soviet Union. And oh boy, there's the European Union was forming. And oh man, all the prophecy people started to go nuts. And you had Europa there, the symbol, the female symbol riding on the bull, and I don't know where, Brussels or somewhere. And you had all of the European Union symbol was the E with a circle of stars around it and all that. And everybody was excited. Oh man, this is the revived Roman Empire, and This is going to be the kingdom of the Antichrist and all this kind of stuff. And a few of us were sitting around saying, nah, I don't think so. But look at it now. The European Union has failed. It has totally failed to accomplish what it set out to accomplish. In a way, it did. But here's the thing. The powers that be that were behind the creation of the European Union, they had some other goals in mind. See, they were following that philosophy of the League of Nations that believed that, okay, since, and this came about after World War II. They thought, here in Europe, we've been through 2 devastating world wars within, the space of about 40 years. What can we do to prevent this from ever happening again? Because, Europe, you look through Europe's history, war after war after war. Here's what we need to do. We need to eliminate all national boundaries. We need to eliminate all national identities. And we need to make one united Europe so that there aren't nobody's fighting over their nationality. Nobody's fighting over their borders. We've got one economy, one kind of a central system of government that we can fall back on and that is an authority, under the United Nations and so on like that. And so that's what they decided to do. Well, now we have seen in the last 5 years, and emphasized in the last probably 2 or 3 years, we've seen the devastating results of Europe or European countries following those policies. Because, see, as part of that philosophy of eliminating all the national borders and eliminating all national identities, one of the things that they did was they allowed unlimited immigration into European countries. And who have we seen flood into Europe? Millions and millions of Islamic people. And they have gone in there and they've just taken over vast parts of Europe, and they've influenced the governments and all that. And because the governments followed these flawed policies of not protecting their borders and not protecting their national identity, now they can't go back on that and say, hey, well, wait a minute, we need to protect our country. Oh, no, they can't do that now. And so they've let all this mass of people flood in there that don't care anything about, European continuity or whatever. They don't care. And so here's what's happened. Point being, for all of those prophecy people that got all excited and said, oh man, the European Union, that's the kingdom of the Antichrist. I'd like to interview them now. It's okay, well, what do you think about it now? Because that didn't pan out. And, the Catholic Church, really? I mean, the Catholic Church really is not, in Europe, is nothing more than just a relic of the old world. I mean, numerous cathedrals and Catholic churches are being sold to Muslims, and they're turning them into mosques all over Europe, everywhere. So, for many years had a conflict with this whole viewpoint of a revived Roman Empire and European Union and all that. Nah, it's not. Especially when you examine Scripture, and we're going to look at this. We'll have time to look at that tonight. I think the Scripture names the names of the geographic regions that these 7 heads and 10 kings and horns and all that come from. The Bible tells us who they are. And none of them are in Europe. Characteristics of the 4th beast kingdom, diverse from all other kingdoms. It'll devour the whole earth, take all the resources, tread it down, forcing it to submit or die. I mean, when you tread something down, that means you're stomping on it. You put your foot on it. And, it's kind of the universal sign. And in fact, when Christ comes again and conquers his enemies, the Scripture is pretty specific. He will put his foot on the neck of his enemies and subdue them. And it will break in pieces the whole earth. So it's going to destroy every form of structure and government except its own. So these things are more characteristics of Islam than the Roman Empire. I also have a, contention that Islam fits the characteristics of the fourth beast kingdom more than the Roman Empire does. Because, Islam is a form of the ancient Babylonian religion. That's one thing. Islam was originated by and is maintained by descendants of Abraham, who claim that their forefathers were cheated out of their birthright, and the covenant God made with Abraham should have gone to them, not Isaac. So that's two reasons. Also, Islam is a religious system that wants to dominate the entire world. That is their goal. Well, they'll tell you, oh, no, it's not. They're the religion of peace and tolerance. But, it wants to dominate the whole world. So that's three things. And there are a number of other characteristics that, if you're looking for something to plug into the slot of the fourth beast kingdom, Islam fits the bill a lot more than the Roman Empire does. But I'm not going to make the case that Islam is the kingdom of the Antichrist. I think he will use Islam, but, who knows? Islam, like a lot of other things, it could pass completely off the scene. We don't know. It may have its time, and it may go away. We don't know. Wait a minute, we didn't read this. The 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and it shall subdue 3 kings. And this is talking about the horns, that one horn rises and takes the place of the 3 horns and so forth. He shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So we looked at this chart. Who are the 10 kings? Many prophecies are in the Psalms. Psalm 83 gives us clues that I think may help us identify these 10 kings. We're going to have to get her one of those. She likes that calm thing. Give her something to do. Just keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. Now, in the tribulation time, when the remnant of Israel is there, and they're trying to figure out what to do and how they're going to survive and figure out what's going on, Psalms like this are going to be ones that they're going to read, and this is going to just jump off the page for them and really have a tremendous meaning and impact for them. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Well, this tumult is this beast with a big mouth boasting of great things, making a tumult against God. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. And this is, they're talking about the saints, and specifically in these prophetic scriptures in Daniel and Revelation, when it talks about the saints, it's talking about the believers of Israel. It's not talking about us. It's talking about the believers of Israel. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So, here we're looking at it, and they're going to know what's going on. They're going to be listening to all of these enemies. And we've seen this. We've seen Ahmadinejad and all these other guys rise up and say, oh, we're going to push Israel into the sea, and we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth, and we're going to wipe them out from being a nation. Mahmoud Abbas and all of those, leaders that say the same thing. Try to wipe their name out. And we know that part of Satan's plan and purpose is that if he can wipe Israel out, then he can show that God couldn't keep his word. And that's kind of his whole point right there. He wants to try to prove that God could not keep his word. That's why he wants to destroy Israel. Plus, he knows that God's plan is that he will use Israel as the head of the nations to redeem the land and redeem his created earth back to himself. They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes, of Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot. If we had the time to do it, I guess we'd take the time, but I'm not going to. If we wanted to kind of dig into some, well, for me it would be interesting history. Maybe, I know you guys are interested in history and archaeology, but it would be an interesting historical study to go back and take a look at some of the history of each one of these kind of people groups and tie them in, especially back in scriptural things, in historical things, especially Tyre. In my studies in archaeology, done a lot of studies about the ancient city of Tyre. And especially in one of my classes, one of the best classes I had was Ancient Ships and Harbors. Great class. Very good. Probably one of the best classes I've taken. Anyway, a lot of interesting things about Tyre. I won't go into all that. But here we find a list of names. Edom, the Ishmaelites, we know who they are. Descendants of Ishmael. He had, 12 sons that all became leaders of tribes. Moab, that was one of the sons of Lot and his daughters. If you remember that whole weird fiasco. The Hagarenes, we know who those are. Those are descendants of I don't remember specifically how that came about, but some that are associated with Hagar as, descendants of Ishmael and so on like that. Gebal and Ammon. Ammon was the brother or cousin. Moab and Ammon were the two sons that came from the weird union of Lot and his daughters after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and so forth. Anyway, Tyre, Asher. So we find these names here, these nations. 10 of them. And all of these nations, and we'll look at a map here in a second, they all surround Israel, these geographic nations. And all of these are Islamic nations today. Ezekiel also wrote about this. He gave a list of 10 nations that are basically in the same areas. Now, these are at different time periods, so sometimes the names may change, but the basic people groups and the geographic areas remain the same. So, by the way, when we're looking at Gog and Magog, and at some point we may come back and take a closer look at Gog and Magog and what there's a lot of confusion about Gog and Magog and who they are and all that. But remember this. Most likely, Gog, when you see Gog, is one of the demonic principalities that are under Satan's command in charge of a certain geographic location on the earth. So when you see Gog and Magog, Gog is the principality, Magog is the geographic location that it's talking about. Gog is not a person. It's not a human person. It's not a nation. So when you see that, remember that. Ezekiel goes on to say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince, one of those chief princes of Meshech and Tubal. Meshech and Tubal are geographic locations. I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. Remember, that's kind of something else is said about Leviathan. And I'll bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, many people with thee. Gomer is some of the isles, probably some of the Greek isles, maybe Macedonia, but probably some of Greece. I think they consider ancient Gomer. Gomer, one of the descendants of Japheth. Togarmah is the area, part of the area of modern Turkey. I don't remember if I got that. I don't think I wrote that down. Anyway, Sheba and Dedan. If you remember back, Sheba and Dedan were two of the sons of Abraham by his second wife, Keturah. He had 5 or 7 sons by Keturah. I don't remember now. I want to say 7, but I'm not sure. Anyway, Sheba and Dedan were two of Abraham's sons by his second wife, Keturah. The merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to a prey? To carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Now, here we have these two lists. And I'm thinking that there are some other places in Scripture, but when I was putting this together, I couldn't think of where they were. I think there are some other places that kind of list these same 10 general nations in these areas. Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab, Hagarenes, and so forth. And this other group in Ezekiel 38. So we find these two groups of these 10 nations, and all of them surround Israel. All of them pretty much either have been or are their enemies. And we know by these prophetic scriptures will at some time. Now, like I say, there are some changes in this over time. Because, like, for example, the Ammonites are gone. There aren't any more Ammonites. The Amalekites, they're gone too. Can't find any Amalekites. Philistines, maybe. There's some of the Palestinian peoples claim that their lineage is back to the Philistines. Not sure. The city of Tyre, it lies in ruins. Alexander the Great destroyed Tyre, built a causeway out to it, destroyed the city. It's been total ruins ever since. Never been rebuilt. Well, I mean, there's stuff there now, but it's, an archaeological park now. Ashur, Assyria, Babylon, most of that, the ancient city lies in ruins. So some of these people groups, they're gone. You couldn't trace them down. But nevertheless, descendants of theirs, people who are descended from the same or kind of folks, Canaanite peoples and so forth, or descendants of Ishmaelites, are in those same places. We look at this list in Ezekiel 38, and what do you know? I mean, we've still got Persia with us today. You can go to Ethiopia. I don't know that I would want to go there. It's a pretty dangerous place. Libya is still on the map. And these other you can pick out where these are. Some of these ancient names. We know pretty much exactly where these places are. So, point being, these 10 nations are listed, and they're enemies of Israel, and probably some form of these groups are going to be the ones that make up that 10-nation confederacy. There has been, in history, an Islamic caliphate, and it controlled all of the geographic area. Let's see if I've got the map up here next. All of these, we've got, Libya and Persia and all these other nations that we've, Togarmah and Gomer and I think one of these is Armenia, it's supposed to be, and so on. But this whole geographic region, these are these nations we're talking about, and they surround Israel. And all of this area is under Islamic control today. And what was my thought that just escaped my mind? Where was I going with that? Anyway, when the 10-nation, the Islamic Caliphate. When the Islamic Caliphate existed, it controlled that geographic region. I think, maybe a little more, but it controlled all of this area, even controlled the land of Israel for a period of time, up until World War I, when, Britain, and you remember Lawrence of Arabia and all of that. And anyway, Britain came in and they took the land of Israel or Palestine. And at that point, the Islamic Caliphate fell sometime around World War I. And they have not been able to reassemble that Islamic Caliphate since then. That's what they're trying to do. You remember the whole thing with ISIS. That's what ISIS, they boldly claimed that they were going to bring back the Islamic Caliphate. And they haven't been able to do it. It seems doubtful that they would ever be able to reestablish an Islamic Caliphate. Because, they are constantly bombing each other and shooting each other. I mean, it's bad enough that Islamic terrorists that attack us, but they kill more of each other than all the other people put together. So I don't know how they think they're ever going to establish an Islamic caliphate if they keep killing each other all the time. But it may be one of those things that if that Islamic caliphate is part of that beast system, God may allow it to happen. He may allow them to reassemble that, or that could be part of the working of the Antichrist. He may be so cunning and so ingenious that he is able to bring the Islamic world together and then somehow or other engineer that peace treaty for 7 years between the Islamic nations and the nation of Israel. So, point being, now I've gone through all this whole big rigmarole and looking at these lists of nations and all this stuff to make the point that the fourth beast kingdom is not a European Union way up here. That places that never had anything to do with Israel, God's covenant with Israel. Never had anything to do with that. No, they're not up here, European. So, no, it's not the revived Roman Empire and European Union. Forget all that. No, it's going to be focused down here in these lands, in these nations. That's where it's going to focus. And that 10-nation confederacy is going to be, because they want to do what, let's go back to this. This is what they want to do. Come and let us, 10-nation confederacy with 10 powerful horns and all that, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So they're going to be they're going to be here. That's where they're going to operate. So they can surround Israel and try to wipe them off the map. All right. So let's see. I tell you what. We're at a pretty good point to stop. So we're going to stop right here before we go to we talked about that and that. Yeah, before we talk about one of the heads as were wounded to death and so forth, we'll pick up there next time as we cover this, because I don't want to get into that tonight. Yeah, that'll be a good place to pick up next week. So, okay. And here again, these things we talked about tonight, a lot of this is my opinion, and so as always, I welcome and am wide open to your input on these prophetic things, or anything you might know or have ideas or comments or questions on any of this, or maybe take some of these things and think about them, and you may have a better idea or something to add to it. Okay, anybody got anything? And if I ever say something that just seems, way off or just doesn't make sense, make sure you bring that up, because it may be something that I may be trying to kind of follow a line of thought, and I may veer off in the wrong direction and not even notice it. So, or illogic or something.
What do you think about the fact that the president recognized Jerusalem as the state or the capital, if you want to call it that?
Well,
yeah.
One thing you can say about Trump is he finally had the guts to do what none of the other presidents had the guts to do.
Right.
Recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Right.
It's their capital. There's no argument about it. So, he had the guts to do that. And, so, sure, the Palestinians are going to protest over it, but they're going to protest over something anyway.
They'll protest the sun come down.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what they do.
so
We were talking about the caliphate there, and I remember when all of things started breaking out a couple of years ago, and it was all right in that area that you were talking about, of being the focal point of the caliphate.
Yeah.
I never heard the word caliphate until they started talking about the direction that they was going and trying to bring the caliphate into faith. Which may in turn may be the basically the center of the action of where it's all, like you say, it's not going to be anything to do with France or Spain or they're just like the United States. They're on the other side of the world from what's happening.
Yeah. Well, it was what did they call it, the Islamic Spring, or when the revolution in Egypt happened, and then all that in Libya, and and kind of when we were getting rid of Saddam Hussein and all that, and it seemed like some positive things, but then I kept looking for, they're going to fly in there and they're going to put together the Islamic Caliphate. I'm really surprised it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. They
I
had
was
momentum
looking for it.
Kind of fizzled.
It kind of fizzled out, and kind of wonder if maybe the Lord is just holding the reins back on the Islamic nations and just not allowing them to, gel into the worldwide force that they want to be.
Right.
And that may be part of where, where Paul's talking about that, he that restrains will restrain until he be taken out of the way, or stops restraining. And I don't know if, we talk a lot about that, and things I'm not real clear on. But anyway, so there could be some restraint there that they're just not going to be allowed to gel into any kind of cohesive world force until maybe, it's time for them to do it, and then the restraint on them will be taken out of the way, and they'll come together. I don't know.
You talk about the European. Let's say that again. European.
Mm-hmm.
Centralization of everything is making it one country. Didn't that what we do here in the United States years and years ago? We had states, that the North and the South, and there was a battle of wars between the states. But we did it with the states so that each one of the states had basically the same type of governing. Now we've evolved into so that all of the United States, all 50 states, have the same constitution and the whole rule. Over there, everything is independent.
And that's the thing. And I was going to say this. See, the difference with the United States is that we started off with a constitution.
Right.
They don't have it. They don't have a constitution
no
over
common
there.
bounds.
And it's like, here's an example. Okay, say World War II, for example. And a lot of the German soldiers, they were accused of war crimes, and they put them on trial. And their defense was, hey, I was just following orders.
Right.
I was following my orders. And I thought, several years ago, I was thinking about that, and I thought, I wonder, so what? They were following orders. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Or I was watching something about, U.S. soldiers in World War II, is where they were swearing their oath. They were being sworn in. And so I duly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United. I said, that's the difference
There's
right
no
there.
common barrier.
The American
Come on.
soldier swore to uphold the Constitution.
Right.
The German soldier swore allegiance to his leaders.
Leader, right.
So whatever his leader told him to do, that's the orders that he carried out. And the American soldier had the Constitution
Had a
that
basis.
was over his leaders.
Had a basis.
Had a basis there that was the foundation. And that's why the United States of America has, been as successful and stable as it has over Europe. Is because of our Constitution.
But at the same token, the United States, there's been a lot of states that have been talking about seceding the Union. We're breaking and if it did, it'd be just be like another Europe.
And
There's no common denominator.
right. I'm not for any state secession personally. I think, look, if we're going to go to that kind of lengths, we need to do something to try to restore the integrity of the Constitution to the entire nation. And that's the thing. We've let the Constitution erode, and we've got too many people in there that don't believe in the Constitution anymore, or they want to change it, or whatever.
It's all about them.
Yeah. And so.
And I'm surprised. We have very liberal states, especially on the West Coast. California does what they want to do, per se. And, I understand what the United States is based on, built on our Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they're trying to tweak and twist the Constitution to where in the state of Texas or any other states that are not on a liberal basis, they say, well, the people that are immigrants that create crimes, they let them go into these sanctuary cities. Like, the law doesn't apply to us because we're obliging our own constitutions. Like they're trying to move away from the United States.
Yeah.
As far as the laws of the land per se.
And here's why. See, we've got too many people in the United States that actually believe in the failed policies that have ruined. They want to do the same thing over there because they believe that same philosophy that, well, if we destroy all the borders and we destroy all the national identities and there are no divisions among people, and we're all one big happy family, then there won't be any reason for any conflict, or we can just share everything and we'll all be happy. That's stupid. It's unrealistic. It's not going to happen because, it's not going to happen. People are going to, recognize their identity and identify with the people and identify with an area and so on. I mean, it's foolish for them to think that you can destroy national boundaries. It'd be like, okay, do you think you can, and I know the extreme of that thinking would say yes to this. So, well, do you think you can just go out there and destroy all property boundaries? And they're thinking, they're really thinking nobody should be able to own any property exclusively,
back to the state.
It should be all, use for, common use. But anyway, so, back to the Constitution, it's kind of based on
Thank goodness the
personal property and things like that.
Founding fathers did it right.
They did. They knew what they were talking about.
And people, and some society today is trying to do away with it, but I don't think they may try, but I don't think they'll ever be able to do it, to break the Constitution.
I hope not.
Isn't that the truth? If they do, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a volunteer to go to the moon.
Yeah.
Right.
Stop the world, let me off.
That's right. Let me off this dude.